of this of Overwatch is understanding what rotations your opponent likes to take and coming into this. A lot of teams don't have a lot of game tape on game day. Now in the play-ins though, that's an entirely different story.
Course, and I just can't wait to get into the action on this one. We're going to a little bit of a different spot this time around. It won't be Lijiang Tower. We're heading to Busan, so this is going to be just an awesome one. I'm so freaking excited, LaFon, because this is such a monumental moment for both of these teams. Both of them, when we have the regular season, the regulation season, the matches are important, sure, but when it comes to this, the conference play-ins, this is so much more. This is where really all the money is coming from, or at least a chance to get into the money.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we talked about the map, of course. It's a fresh start for us as casters, but it's a fresh start for these teams as well. Play-ins and playoffs, as a result, are a way to kind of say, listen, the regular season happened already. You can kind of throw the results away. They just dictated that we got here. Now that we're here, it's time to show what we're made of. And I think coming into this, we have to highlight the storyline that New York University beat Drexel earlier. I think in Drexel's mind, though, they've kind of forgotten about that already. That's not part of their calculus anymore. And I think coming into this, I expect to see two teams going as aggressively at each other in the match as they can. And something I want to highlight, of course, is going to be the tank matchup. Right, this is going to be an important one in the way through. We've seen a lot of flexibility from teams in the position to be in the play-ins. Obviously we've seen the flexibility into the Reinhardt, but we've the higher tier teams have been able to showcase Wrecking Ball with great regularity, have been able to go to the Winston Sombra if required, on those mobility-based sub-maps, a la Garden for Lijiang Tower. So yeah, coming into this, definitely the tank head-to-head match.
Speaking to Control specifically, if we were going to look at their previous matchup, NYU beat Drexel 2-0 on Control, but when we're looking at Escort, Hybrid, and Assault, it was all decided by 1 point. Of course, just points themselves don't tell the full story, so I'm imagining this was a much closer, a much tenser matchup between these two than any stats can provide. So I just want to see who will come out on top, and I think a big decider and a tone setter for the season, for the series, as it always is going to be when we first jump into Control.
Yeah, and another thing to highlight too is this is now elimination season, right? This is you make any mistakes, you're done. There's no second chances here, right? In the regular season, if you drop a map, if you drop a series, it's not the end of the world, as these two teams showcase, right? 7-2, not the perfect record, but here in the playoffs, you don't have that luxury anymore. On a wire, on a tightrope, if you will, heading into this. So I think that's also going to be playing a little bit into the concept of it. If you're down early in the series, it is a lot more severe than it can be in prior matches, and I'm excited to see how the teams adapt. Once we get into the series itself, in light of that information.
Yeah, adaptation, adapt or die, right? You have to just be able to read your opponents, be able to adjust to any real changes or any compositions that you weren't fully expecting. And I think, as you said, it will be dependent on kind of that tank line. If you're being rushed too much, if you have someone in your back line, but you don't have the correct peel, you don't have the correct heroes that can bring the peel to your supports, that's going to be a major issue. It's all about just ensuring that the supports will be able to sustain you throughout these extended fights. I don't think any of these are going to go very quickly.
No. In as much as there'll be, I think, decisive engagements. It is going to be, I think, a lot about state, especially when we see the high mobility composition. Staging is going to be important. Setting up the fight before it begins and kind of going from there. Again, we when we talk about the standings here, the first seed teams coming in for the majority of the groups that we've kind of the divisions that we have here have really showcased a level of stylistic identity, if you will, for themselves, and have kind of put that forward as being what they're going to run. And I bring that up because obviously we're here in the second, third seed matchup today. What is that identity going to be initially? How are they going to approach the game early? And is that going to leave a mark on their opponent, right? If you come in and your idea is to play really quick, really aggressive, is that reactive tendency there in your opponent to respond in kind? So that's another thing I'm kind of highlighting here as something that's going to be important once we get into the match itself.
Yeah, and It can go both ways, especially if you want to play a specific play style. However, your opponents are bringing in a hard stop, denying any backline, denying any forward aggression. You got to rethink your strategy, and maybe you want to retry this set mental that you had, this set composition going into the first round. You want to give it a few fights, but how long will it take for a team to realize that maybe, hey, maybe this composition isn't working how we wanted to, or will it be a mental idea like, no, this is what we like to play? Will it be a comfort pick doing what you like because you know it works for you? Or will it be a this is no time to be playing it safe? We have to go all out because our season is at risk.
Yeah, that is kind of thing. And to be fair, these teams are on equal ground here, right? This is not a case of one team kind of playing for their lives to get into the postseason. This is both teams playing for that same level of it. So when you're on equal footing, in previous matches when we were talking about the race to get into the play-ins, into the playoffs, in prior weeks here on the NACE Starleague Los, we would highlight, okay, you want to kind of put your mark on the series and go from there. Here, that's no longer the case. Both these teams are equally at risk, and equally, stand to benefit in opposite regards. So, coming into this, you have less likely a chance to see a cheese composition come into play, for example. And I think more to your point, it is going to highlight what you've practiced rather than what the teams have practiced rather than a sort of a reactive. Response to something that may be pulled out at the tip of a hat from either one of these squads.
Okay, well, we're about to get into this one. I'm definitely excited. We have a nice composition. Wait, is that a mirror? Yeah, we got a mirror composition between NYU and Drexel, so there isn't going to be any adaptations necessary. It's all about who can win it out with the same composition.
This is the style that we expect to see on downtown from these high-tier teams. Wrecking Ball for Disruption. Sombra, obviously, such a great counter to the Wrecking Ball if required, and even to the D.Va. And obviously, the Tracers to put a lot of damage downrange. We'll see how well it can adapt. Optimal shot ahead into the EMP, only temporarily, as Swift 16 takes the lead back.
I think what's important is getting those specific hacks, but we have to start talking about CB already falling down. That's 2 supports. Make it 3 dead for Drexel.
That is just a clean start there for New York University. Obviously, I talked to the top of the show about staging, getting into the area to approach a fight, and New York University just get the better spacing. They have more room to work, more room to maneuver, and obviously Swift 16 and Love is Rage combining for a ton of damage. Look at the difference in ult charge between the DPS on each squad. New York University are going to be set up really strong for this next engagement, and they don't even need to. Love is Rage has already taken out a pick, and that's going to be the end of this fight before it even begins.
Even Swift is in the back line, causing some havoc and able to translocate away for free. Just this guerrilla warfare that we're seeing from them, picking them apart, it's making it way too easy to deny a fight before it can even begin.
And the other thing, too, is with that pickoff onto Optimal Shot, it means that the EMP from Swift 16 to be on earlier. Big hacker to Love is Rage, no recall, but the rally will keep them alive in the meantime.
Okay, Swift now has that EMP at the ready, but Claire's already taken a hit. A few ultimates coming out for Drexel, but now it's the EMP. Now it's time to strike back, and Swift is pretty much getting these shots in uninhibited, and it's a EMP right back at you from Optimal Shot, but it's too little, too late.
This is still going to be a response, though, as the minefield comes out. Bonesaw trying to keep everyone in play. Woolgar, such a healthy character, but Bonesaw doing everything they can to stay alive. With Claire coming back with Transcendence, this is looking like a lights out for Drexel, who will have to reset.
Woolgar might be able to get away because they do have that Orb of Harmony, and there is some backup, but it will have to be a reset. They have to get away and reset for a full team fight. Yep, there's the D.Va jumping up.
They do force a Transcendence, though, from Claire, so New York University aren't going to have any support ultimates into this next engagement, and that's going to be something Drexel University has to take a great effect to. They're going to have to go full dive onto the supports here and go for an aggressive pickoff. Swift 16 consistently staying beyond their welcome to get those eliminations and getting out alive is a big thing for them. And Swift 16 already up to 70% on that EMP. New York University in final fight have all the tools they need to shut this one down.
Yeah, it's just that survivability that we're seeing from this Sombra right now, and even the harassment almost getting the kill right out of the spawn. It'll make Peanut think twice, and that's severely cutting off their healing potential.
99% overtime, somebody to contest. Self-destruct won't get eliminations, but it zones out enough to give NYU more space to work.
Love is Rage has the pulse bomb. They're gonna hold on to it. They don't even need it at the moment. That self-destruct is gonna be big, taking out Claire and Bonesaw. However, while they did find the eliminations, they didn't get to contest the point.
That is really, really good performance there by New York University, understanding that they don't need, the win condition on the fight is to prevent them from touching the objective, preventing their opponents from touching the objective. And so, even then, without the opportunity to get in via the zoning ultimates of the pulse bomb and so forth, it ends the round in style. Something that we're seeing a lot of from NYU, and Drexel's going to have to respond in round number 2 is going to be the fact that on these dives, Swift 16 and Love is Rage are both getting into the back line and making Peanut's life incredibly miserable for on the Zen. And the peel needs to be there. They need to be getting rid of these diving DPS, or at least making their life more difficult on the approach.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there is no way that they could have a full-on stop. I mean, CB would be a good way to use the shield bash, potentially stun them enough to get a kill, but they haven't been able to actualize on that. It's just easy escapes coming from either the DPS that were in the back line, but there's no easy escape there for Swift.
That is a really good, recall for the amount of damage coming through, and they're not done yet. Drexel with more stability in the front line with the Sigma, and they're going to make full use of it as they eliminate the remaining members of NYU. Los, the point is going to unlock here, and Drexel will get first percentage. And I mean, this is the kind of adaptation you need to do. Swift 16 and Love is Rage are trying to get into that backline very aggressively. They're leaving it as they're kind of playing a very aggressive style, not giving themselves many avenues of escape. So once they're on that mission, just push forward and deal with the backline of NYU. That has given Drexel their first percentage. You can see Swift 16 forced to recall early because they're being hunted down, and that's a good adaptation from round 1.
It's a great response to see from Drexel not being bullied anymore. Here comes a Dragon Strike, but all the while you still have Bonesaw sitting on the objective, and they got it! They got it for free at the expense of pretty much every other teammate for NYU. They stalled out the buildup of that percentage.
Yep, I mean, it's stalled at a couple percent, 9%, but you guarantee the fight wins, so it's a bit of a non-starter, I guess. We're going to see some adaptation from New York University now. They're going over to the Ash here, so more consistent range damage rather than the Sombra. Obviously, optimal shot on the Hanzo is a similar start, but I mean, that's a big pickoff. Claire with a 5 orb down range, and you're already at advantage in a 6v5.
And they're maintaining their posture, sitting on the objective, allowing themselves to get a better position. Here comes a Pulse Bomb, and it does remove Jeff Goldblum from play. That barrier's gone. The tanks are out, so this will be way easier for NYU to finish things off as long as they have that heal in play, and Transcendence is at the ready.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of that, they don't get the last contest from Pest Control, so 50% is going to be sort of the marker here for Drexel to work with. And in regards to New York University, they kind of just bypass that shield pressure that Drexel University has. And I'd like to see Wolgar and Pest Control play a more duo style here, play more aggressively up front, to try and assassinate Claire in the back line. So far, though, it has been a good response here to resolve that level of aggression.
Wolgar, they swing from behind and get a good minefield plan. That won't be necessary. I mean, they do it, but here comes the Dragon Strike as well. 2 ultimates committed, but no one finds any loss of life. Here comes the Griffinic Bucks. They are investing so much into this one, and finally they do remove Eeyore from the fight, but there's still plenty left to get done, as only 1 dead for NYU doesn't spell too much success here for Drexel.
The big problem there is that was so much put forward to get rid of the Brigitte, rather, and all that for the fact that they just lost out the fight here as the cleanup crew comes in from NYU. And I have to say that may have been a little overcommittal onto the one support player there, especially because it was a 1-for-1 trade. So Drexel, all in on their engagement, and New York University abandoned their Brig, which is the right play in that time to win the fight out. Now on the flank here, you see Bonesaw setting up for the minefield on the roll through. If they can catch this last player, it'd be really, really good.
Oh, this is perfect. Minefield stopping them from getting by that choke point, and where do they have to go? Again, they just have to maintain that position. All the while, the percentage is building up, but that is 2 dead. Both the DPS are gone for NYU, so their damage capabilities here in this next fight are going to be severely limited. Yeah,
Transcendence, though, nearly online. Claire can extend this fight if NYU so wishes to do so, and they're going to do it.
Okay, Peanut has to back off, and this damage is not being useful at all. Another Dragon Strike from Optimal Shot, but they're so low themselves. The second that they face up into the fight, they'll lose their life. Love is Rage there to punish it, and a great recall to get either side of the wall. And now this is starting to look in the favor of NYU, especially with Bob here to fight alongside the rest of the squad. Everything's just falling apart here for Drexel as they won't be able to maintain their lives on the objective.
Yeah, the last couple of players are going to be staggered out. It's just a wrecking ball in play. Step off the objective for a moment, and the map is over. There's the stun. There's the elimination. Overtime will tick away. And it is but a Hail Mary at this point. It won't last for long, and that will be New York University starting off 1-0 here in our play-ins, our best of 5 lows. And this has been an explosive beginning for New York University.
Yeah, New York University coming out strong and reliving that previous scoreline and control. 2-0 so far, and if we're looking at downtown, this was such a difficult place for Drexel to even get started in. Well, they may have been able to get that play of the game. It was at the end of the round. It really didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, and I think it's a nice little comparison in between what either Diva Ultimate found value in. That
Yeah.
Diva Ultimate for Drexel got some kills, but it didn't allow them to get to the objective. The one that was used previously by NYU was sent right to the spawn, and it made Drexel not be able to approach the objective. They had to back off. They had to find cover because the direct route to the objective was way too dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling a bit of deja vu here coming into this second map, though, Los, as we're getting, basically a recreation of how this matchup went down last time these two teams faced off. So hopefully there's a bit of a response coming in from Drexel University. I think the other critical thing, too, is that every, with that 100-0 that NYU came out on round 1, there was a response and adaptation from Drexel in round number 2, but then very, very quickly after that, NYU brought back a response to that adaptation and took the round right back from their opposition. So heading into map number 2, you mentioned at the top that is that pick counter pick composition or concept going to come into play? It has so far. Will it continue in map number 2?
I mean, it was working great on the second round of Busan, but I think one moment that was a bit of a critical error for them that at least led to even more loss was the commitment of 3 ultimates in the side room, not even on the objective. When you're using a Dragon Strike, a Minefield, and the Gravitic Flux all in quick succession, not in a very pivotal position. Like in that side room, they could have they walked out. That's exactly what they did. They walked away from it. If it was on the objective, maybe that would have found more value, but you just dropped 3 ultimates into essentially 1 elimination, and it just messed up the whole flow of their ultimate cycling and able to bring in those synergies because they have had great moments. I think we could say that the Dragon Strikes coming out from Drexel usually did a crazy amount of damage, but in that moment, it was just a critical misfire.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that in terms of the team play that's coming up from Drexel, the switch to the Sigma was a good play. Unfortunately, towards the end of the end of that round, and obviously the end of the map, Drexel kind of got separated a little bit more from that front line from that Sigma player, and they weren't able to make full use of the shield. So the flank came in yet again from Love is Rage most of the time, actually, causing most of the issues on Tracer. And that was a huge problem for Drexel in that last match. I want to see if that adaptation comes through because the composition was working when they were playing it correctly. It's once there was a wrench thrown into the works via the Tracer, via the Wrecking Ball, that's when Drexel starts to lose a little bit of their momentum. If they can recover that, then that's going to be important for them in the future couple maps that we get here.
Yeah, it was definitely enjoyable to see them adjust in terms of composition, but now they have to be able to adjust in terms of just team play. Their strategies got a little bit frantic as the percentages were going higher and higher for NYU. They wanted to force in plays that just didn't seem to work out. So if they could play around both with their ability to get themselves in better positioning and with their ability to adjust compositions, I do believe that Drexel definitely has the potential to come back and make this a much more competitive series and certainly not a 3-0.
I agree. That is very much the thought process I have here too. My concern is not necessarily will they prevent the 3-0, will they prevent the shutout? The question is, can they win? Because as we said, right, that's the important part of this part of the season. We are in the play-ins here. It's win or go home, and I think coming into this, do they have what it takes to find victory? Yes, they do mechanically, but their issue has not been a mechanical failure to this point. It has been when they gotta get pulled apart, in awkward fights. They've not been able to recover as a 6-player unit. So that is what I'm looking for specifically here in Eichenwald, as we get a chance to witness what is almost certainly going to be a near mirror, if not a full mirror, though double shield, certainly a variety of composition that I would, continue to expect through the later phases of this map.
Enjoying the Echo pick here for Swift. I think this is just going to be an absolute nuisance. Echo, as well as Eeyore, just providing that damage boost will be too much for them to deal with. We'll expect pest control now with a much more capable hero to be able to deal with that one. Moving over to the Ashe.
This is wow. This is a lot of just frontline pressure. So shield break going to be on Drexel's side. Obviously, they've got the Hanzo. The question is, can Swift 16 just burst down a player in time? And it's starting to look exactly like that as Jeff Goldblum gets taken out.
Rest in peace, Jeff, but it will be a quick resurrection. However, a lot of pressure coming from Love is Rage to make that a bit more difficult. They will get away with it and have that player back in action. So now it's just all about breaking these shields, and with the Storm Arrows, that might be a bit more easy. However, plenty of heals are keeping them alive, so it's all about getting in the back line, as we see Love is Rage has done it again, moving pest control.
Yeah, this is going from bad to worse, though, for Drexel University. They can't be losing supports like this. Okay. Love is Rage is dancing, fancy footwork. Optimal shot will take one down, but it might be too little too late. Yeah, with optimal shot taken away, that's definitely going to be resurrected quickly.
Swift getting right into the face of Drexel. Jeff Goldblum going down again, a support help out. That was just two supports working together as friends. Well done for NYU so far, and look at the ultimates too.
Yeah, it's New York has not really been forced to use much of anything. CB is switching over to the Brigitte here, but that was off of Mercy. So clearly, that's going to be all charge that's lost in value. Keep an eye on Duplicate here, by the way, and Pulse Bomb as well as the Amp Matrices duel out here.
The dueling amps, but now that Immortality Field's totally out. Pest Control going down again. Swift just flying through the sky. That beam tracking is too insane, and there's no possible response for Drexel right now.
I mean, look at the assist on Jeff Goldblum, by the way. That was, what, 4 players? Nice. Okay, good. Punish that aggression from Love is Rage. You like to see it. To that point, that was Halt, Accretion, what is it? The Ant Matrix and Blue Beam. That's a lot to take that Jeff Goldblum. So, Drexel walking back with a technical advantage. The Love is Rage will be back swiftly. They're back on, or rather, they're going to be on the Ashe now. So, a bit of an adaptation here as we couple Gravitic Flux with the Dragon Strike.
Great beams right now. Swift just maintaining the right side of that flank wall. 2 tanks, Isaac and Bonesaw, lay down the barriers and make it seemingly impossible for Drexel to even walk on through.
This is, man, there's no real, despite the shield break advantage Drexel rather technically has, they have not been making use of it, and they have not gotten into position to give CB the opportunity to, proc the Inspire. Trying to just force the issue with the Ant Matrix, but they're walking past it. They're not actually getting value out of it here.
Oh yeah, that's so much damage going on over to Wolgar. They will be able to get into the sideline and maybe find some safety, but now Swift bringing out the Gravitic Flux almost came through with a ton of damage. They will be removed out of the duplication, and this might be a good moment here for Drexel to find this objective because they are removing Swift from the fight. They stop potentially a resurrection, but no, it will be put into fruition. So in the back line, this is where NYU is making their stand, and they're standing strong.
And on top of that, they did not actually eliminate Eeyore, so the Mercy kept healing and damage boosting throughout all of that. And that is going to come back to haunt Drexel University. That's going to come back to haunt Pest Control in particular, as New York University, not only do they hold the point, but they prevent any capture percentage from being ticked over whatsoever. Drexel University down to the dregs of the time bank here, and it's looking unlikely to get any contest, never mind an actual fight. And mark this, they will have no ultimates for this final fight.
Wolgar in the background might be able to find something if they can disrupt the shield presence. This could be a good start for them, but they're sitting in the back line, and they're taking a lot of damage at the moment. They can't do anything. The health packs are gone. They have to wait for their teammates who don't have any positioning to move on up. It's just going to be a simple contest to maybe extend the fight. They put it into overtime, but there's no one else to follow it up. It's way too late for Drexel to make their move, and even when they do get there, they're done.
The highlight moment of this map was definitely the fact that the Bob was applied to that, that hidden corner behind the objective. And you're staying alive. The Mercy player critically not going down to heal in that last fight. And New York University, I mean, they have put themselves in all likelihood on match point after Eichenwald with a dominant performance. Regardless of what happens, Drexel will not be equalizing the series on Eichenwald. And New York University have 4 minutes to take 1/3 of the objective. That is going to be such a critical moment, Los. The fact that you were able to hold when you were down 4 players, that's just remarkable.
Yeah, and it's the fact that not a single tick was gained by Drexel. If they were able to get at least a third of it, that would have been understandable. Like, okay, they could bring it back again, and maybe the next fight will be winnable. The fact that it was a full-on hold, LaFon was just insane, and it put so much pressure onto Drexel. How are they going to be able to hold that same position for all of this time? And it makes you think, how can this be possible? It's a mental burden for sure.
It really is. And we're gonna see we're gonna see what is essentially gonna be a mirror composition. Pest control on the Hanzo rather than the Tracer, but you really look at this. This is all about survivability. They don't have a true win condition established here, right? They're playing for the draw, first of all, but even in a fight, like they're hoping for a pickoff from a Hanzo, maybe try and play optimal shot for a lot of spam. It's a question here, but Love is Rage can just get behind the shields, get behind enemy lines, and force people back to the objective. That's a shield already broken here. New York University at advantage before the fight even begins.
Control looking for something, but the halt will spot them out, and they have to play around this destroyed tank. Regardless, optimal shot going up to the high ground, and no one really there to give any challenge in the air authority. But Swift 16 starting things off. That's already 2 dead here for Drexel University. It's going to be 3. Half the team's gone. What can you do about it now?
And it's all the crying here on this map specifically as the eliminations come through. It's just the pilot, just the Orisa. Those will be eliminated. No one else will touch, and that will be map number 2 in quick succession as New York University will take a commanding 2-0 lead in this play-in match here in our best of 5.
This does not look good for any fans of Drexel right now because it was absolute dominance coming in from NYU this time around. It was a much more back and forth game that we saw in Busan. This was a completely different matchup. There wasn't many or any opportunity for them to just break through. And the one time that they did, a lone Bob in the backline was just devastating to them, and it stopped their most successful attack that they had.
Yeah, I think right now NYU has had the clutch factor in these 50-50 fights, and that has been a big part of it. Obviously, we talk about the DPS. They have been the one popping off in the kill feed very frequently, but a specific shout out to Eeyore on the support role there. If the Mercy had gone down, then that would have been the point ended, right? That would have been the Ash, Love is Rage being eliminated because there's a lot more damage that you can kind of worry about. With the Mercy staying alive in that fight, it really kept it extended and is a big part of why that was not just a hold, but a full hold shutout for NYU on Eichenwald.
We got to talk about the ability to maintain one choke completely under control. And that's because the double barrier that we saw from Isaac and Bonesaw, they never gave up. Anytime that we saw Drexel make their way to the objective itself, it's because they had to go around the tank side. They weren't able to take that fight head on, and it would usually be through maybe Wolgar going into the back line as the wrecking ball, causing something from behind. They were never able to break the shields quick enough or deal enough damage to take that head-on fight against the tank line.
I think that's what's weird because Drexel University had the better shield break composition for the majority of the map, right? They had the chance to do what New York University did. It's the focus fire from NYU was just a little bit more clean, a little bit more fast-paced, a little bit more cohesive as a squad, and that was a big part as to why the shields broke so quickly for Drexel. It's something that they're going to need to, if we see the double shield mirror again, that needs to be priority number 1. If your shields are breaking significantly faster than your opponent, something has gone drastically wrong, especially if you have the better shield break potential.
Yeah, that was just a major issue. They never could get a fight started in terms of getting under that choke because they were always under pressure, never putting the pressure right back on the defenders. So this is going to be just an even more dangerous round for them. We're heading into Dorado. We're heading into New York University defending again. This is going to be another test here for Drexel. Can you break the defense? Can you break the line without it starting from behind, from a flank? That doesn't really help you out because you're missing an important role of a tank, bringing in your own defensive line forward.
Yeah, I'm going to need to see a little bit more survivability from Drexel University on that backline too, right? It's not their fault in any sense of the word, right? Obviously, Love's Rage and Swift 16 both, and obviously Bonesaw to a certain extent, are making life incredibly difficult for the backline. So it's not, it's not as if they're just falling over for the sake of it. But I mean, in this, they're going to need to find ways to stay alive and keep their team up. Whether that be, by playing a little bit more aggressively, forcing the fight a little bit more frequently, or Drexel University just sacrificing their supports for the fight win. Obviously, what adaptation comes through, but New York University are going to have the advantage of the high ground. They're going to have advantage of first defense. And on top of that, I mean, New York University still playing that Orisa. They're going to be really, really difficult to dive here on this elevated position that they're taking.
I guess that's what Wolgar might be looking for. Same thing with Jeff Goldblum. If they're able to get onto that position, maybe knock a player off, that would be a good condition. But even if they got a tank off, you have Bonesaw with the ability to just stay up there. And even if Isaac is knocked off, he'll fly right back. The tank line and line in general for defense will not be moved easily.
Mobility-wise, though, Love is Rage just continue to dance around, peppering a little bit of damage. And speaking of peppering and damage, Pest Control has to back out already. Big whip shot there to deny Wolgar, and now he's stunned as well. Eeyore just denying Wolgar this high ground solo.
I mean, even so, with that ground being denied, the payload has moved up quite a bit without much interaction with the enemy squad, but that's going to be 4 down for Drexel, so a quick reset will be necessary here.
Big problem is now that you can't get to the objective, you can't get to the payload without walking past the line of sight of New York University. So even though the cart did make it a little bit further forward, it's going to get really hard to approach it from here on out. Obviously, Love's Rage here on the flank looking for a pickoff, but will retreat to the team. Finds out what? Is that the one clip? Barely optimal shots, gets away with the heals from Peanut.
Okay, Love is Rage still dealing with a lot. Aggro's quite a bit of Drexel, and it leaves Wolgar all on their lonesome by the objective. Love is Rage finally punished by optimal shot, and that will teach them a lesson, but they'll forget it quite soon because they'll be in the back line again. Wolgar taking the fight over to Isaac, and they might be able to knock the pilot out of there, but it won't be the case because the backup here with Swift is Swift.
Really well done. New York University, and that's what I mean, by the way, about approaching the objective. Like, look how much damage they take just trying to get into this choke point. And Drexel University are stymied yet again. Looking for this flank play. I mean, Bob will slow things down for New York University to be able to buy a little bit of time. And obviously, Ant Matrix will have damage throughput. Who is going to be the applied nano? Oh, big play on optimal shot. That's an elimination declared very swift.
Okay, Wolgar now, with that strength, they might be able to get something done here because they have the double tank support. Should be good, but the minefield into the back line is going to be huge. Eeyore will lose their life, but it's a double mine. Now we have Bob instead trying to cause some serious havoc here, but honestly, this fight is all over the place, LaFon. I've got no idea what's happening.
I mean, Jeff Goldblum stays in mech. No, they don't. Right as I say it, they get taken out, and this is actually really bad for Drexel because on the objective is the Orisa, is Bonesaw, and Claire has made their return. So that's going to be a lot of survivability gained here for the backline, and of course, Eeyore going to duel out optimal shot. This is absolute worst case scenario for Drexel. They lose their pulse bomb, and they only get the immortality field out in return.
And now they have to back off too. They might be able to go hunting if Love is Rage is on that player trying to make the escape, and I think they will just contest a little bit, put the pressure on, keep them thinking twice, and slowly building up to their own pulse bomb.
Yeah, here's the critical thing though, is that the rally is going to be online for both supports, both Briggs for both teams. Unfortunately, only one team has the pulse bomb, and the explosive instant damage is going to be a difference maker here.
Okay, now this is going to be an interesting one with optimal shot doing the dupe onto the Tracer. Might be interesting if they could get a second chance at a pulse bomb, but even so, no one is ready. No one is postured for a fight. Optimal shot losing out of that duplication, so this just further delays their execute.
And Love is Rage is taking so much time away from the DPS. They are not in the fight here at all. Love is Rage essentially taking 2 players out by themselves.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to result in an elimination as long as you take their time away from it. But finally, the Pulse Bomb is going to remove Walgar, and there's the self-destruction. It doesn't find anything, but it does split the fight apart. It will go into a sleep dart, though, courtesy of Peanut. But all the while, you've got 3 dead coming in for Drexel.
There's the nano boost on to Pest Control, trying their absolute best here. It's going to wear away, though. It's just 2 versus the world right now for Drexel University.
Wakey, wakey, Isaac, you're back in the fight, and now the second they do, Peanut goes down. The Draken is insane for this pilot right now. Isaac and NYU are certainly taking care of this objective. There will be some extension of the play from Walgar, but this is as far as they'll go.
That is indeed going to be it, and now the hopes of the season lie on the question, can Drexel University defend Point A? To keep the series alive, to keep their season alive. All comes down now to 1 defense here on Dorado. Just past that fountain on first is the end of the map now. And we'll see how well Drexel can respond.
This is definitely defensible by Drexel. It's not going to be easy by any means, but it is certainly possible. Much more doable than, say, 1 tick over on Eichenwald. But they have to be full stop. And that's not what we've seen from Drexel in the past. They haven't been able to keep NYU at bay. They haven't been able to completely have control over whatever position they're looking to hold.
Ready for battle.
It's going to be interesting, right? Obviously, it's going to be essentially a reverse of what we saw in that last round. Drexel University going to have the high ground control with a shield. New York University at least posturing for the Wrecking Ball. I always forget that these rockets can hit those bells from spawn at the start of the game.
It's good to send out some shots and let the opponent know we're coming for you.
We'll see if Love is Rage sticks on this. I doubt it. It'll probably be back to the Tracer. Yep, there it is. And I mean, Love is Rage has been an absolute menace on this character.
Oh, Bonesaw.
Hello, Bonesaw.
Really open for that one. Optimal shot on the Junkrat. I'm hoping that this will be a good way to just keep those barriers broken down against Isaac. However, the question will be, who is going to be in the back line? Can we have some of those traps to stop Love is Rage from getting there?
Look how much, I mean, Bonesaw just by existing pulled so many players over. Trap number 2 found. Cart, by the way, is almost halfway to his destination.
Yeah, this is a similar situation to what we saw Drexel getting into. They moved up quite a bit. However, once they got to that position of getting into a fight, they had to go through so much damage to take it. Will this be a similar situation? The question is, can Drexel punish them before they can fight? It starts off with Swift getting some sticky bomb kills, and that's the immortality field popped over by Peanut. Once that's out of play, that's where we see Swift make their execution into this play. But however, you have Goldblum jumping into the sky to make sure that damage is limited, but it doesn't matter. When you jump into the sky, you allow Love is Rage to get exactly where they need to be, and the Pulse Bomb is here. It doesn't even need to explode because everyone on Drexel's dead. This should be an easy ride into the finish.
Yep, the cart will slowly eke its way across the finish line, and NYU getting more and more dominant as the series went on. They shut out their opponents in complete fashion, not giving up a single objective here in this play, and as they will move on and continue their momentum in this series. Pest Control will get the highlight, but it was all NYU here tonight as they finish a 3-0 over Drexel University.
Yeah, that is dominant.
Yeah.
We were speaking about whether or not they would get 3-0. It was about whether or not Drexel can win. This was a completely different series as it progressed. It started off with such great hopes for Drexel. The possibility that, yeah, they can hang with NYU. They can contest on the objective. They can make this a competitive match. Then it went to Eichenwald. Well, maybe they can adjust their strategies. Maybe they can somehow break through the defensive lines of NYU to ultimately, like, how is this possible? How can NYU be so dominant on the defense against Drexel?
Yeah, and I mean that's gonna have to be, for Drexel University, or sorry, for Drexel, for New York University, I should say. That's gonna be a case now moving forward. How well do they respond now in turn? It's a very dominant performance against Drexel University. They're not done yet. Their journey continues as they play up in the further matches here in the play-ins. But excellent gameplay today. They really showcased how strong they've become, how much better as a team they've become since the start of the season, and interested to see how much they can translate that into momentum moving forward.
Well, we'll have to see how they'll be able to bring those lessons to the conference finals because they'll be going up against Harrisburg University, and that has been a name we've dropped many times throughout the season. They've gone 9-0 in the conference, so this is going to be a real test for NYU Ultraviolets. But that'll wait for another day because we still have one more series to go throughout tonight. But before we do, sit back, get comfy, and if you're going to get comfy, you might as well get comfy in a Mavix chair. See, Mavix chairs are designed with gaming in mind, locking wheels to keep you in place, cooling and breathable fabrics to keep your body and butt dry, deep recline to allow your body to go super far back, and most importantly, ergonomics. I'm not sure what that word means. Our chairs put you in proper ergonomic position that helps increase your blood flow and reduce stress. Looks like I learned the word, and I use a Mavix chair as well. So, anyways, big shout out to Mavix for sponsoring CSL and NACE Starleague. But we're gonna be right back with our second series of the night. So don't go anywhere. The action continues. Hey, welcome back to NACE Starleague Overwatch. We wrapped up our first series between NYU and Drexel University way quicker than I thought we were going to. It was a quick 3-0, but we still have another conference play in to run it down. It's going to be Boise State versus UC Berkeley. In case you forgot, I'm Los, joined by LaFon. And LaFon, my man, how are we feeling about this upcoming matchup?
I mean, A, I hope we have a really competitive one. B, it's playoff time, right? This is the time for some excitement in the air, as it were. And I mean, obviously, we have to talk about the matchup, how it happened prior, how we got to this point between these two squads, because that really, I think, references how we approach the match itself.
Yeah, I mean, how did we get here? How did we get here? I know that Boise State, they're 8-1, Cal 7-2, but really, Boise State 3-0'd Cal only 3 weeks ago. So another situation where one of these squads, the higher seed, is a step above their counterparts.
Yeah, it was a 3-0. This is the thing coming into this. Obviously, we talk about reviewing gameplay, but 3 weeks, that's both a long time and no time at all, right? In terms of how you can practice for a matchup. So I think my biggest thing coming to this is how has that adaptation come through? Is there going to be a recovery process from that 3-0 not too long ago? Of course, as we get into the match itself. This is going to get a quick look at the head-to-head between Boise State and Berkeley, your second and third seed here. A large bagel, not just a regular size bagel, a large bagel. Nice.
My go-to order.
Large bagel versus banana bread. Oh my. Oh, we are in for a treat today.
Which would you pick, LaFon? Which are you more into?
What kind of bagel? What kind of bagel?
Breakfast. I would go with everything.
Oh, I meant like, is it a Montreal style, a New York style? Like, what are we going for here?
I didn't know there was a difference between a Montreal style and a New York style. What's the difference?
Well, man, a little bit of tidbit here. New York style bagels are a little bit chewier, and they're not as sweet. Montreal style bagels are a little bit sweeter and they're a little bit crunchier on the outside. So both are very, very good, but a little bit difference there.
Well, I gotta rep the hometown bagels. It's a New York bagel.
Fair enough. I mean, I live just a couple hours away from Montreal, so I'll have to go with the Montreal just for the sake of both are excellent, both are equally good. I like both, but I'll go with the Montreal just to be a little bit different here. Banana bread is also a terrific thing. To the action though of Overwatch itself, a little bit of half and around there. We got map number 1 up here in just a moment. And I mean, we've already seen that the teams in this echelon of play have been gravitating towards that high tempo, upbeat gameplay, if you will. A lot of mobility, a lot of wrecking ball too, and definitely I think Trace are going to be a difference maker here tonight.
Yeah, without a doubt. And if we're gonna check a little bit on the history of these two squads, when they went up against each other, it was 2-0 on Control and easy, quick 2-1s on Hybrid and Escort. So this is gonna be, like I said, in a similar situation as the previous series. If they want to break the mold, they gotta start right here on Control. It's gonna be going into Lijiang Tower.
We got away from it a little bit today, but can't escape the beast for too long, right? Got to go back to Old Faithful, as it were. And I mean, the question now becomes, if we do see an adaptation, if we do see a resolution, Lijiang Tower is the map that we actually get the most variety on. Weirdly, we saw a lot of Somber Reaper on Garden this season. Once you get to Control Center, we've obviously seen a lot more Reinhardt. And then a lot more Brawl in that regard. Night Market is the one wild card map, if you will, sub map where anything goes. We've seen Rush, we've seen Dive, we've seen odd bruiser compositions based around the Roadhog. So I'm curious to see how we get if we get any new flavors here, or if it's going to be sort of the mainstays that we've come to expect over the regular season.
Hey, I mean, this isn't really a time to it's not really a time to experiment. I think we talked about it earlier. We're not going to try and throw out any cheese compositions. It's all about winning. It's all about survival, but trying out new things as we head into the first round over on that Garden. It may be interesting if you practice something that isn't exactly meta. that might be able to throw your opponents for a loop. This isn't going to be one of those times. It's the very standard Sombra Reaper. I mean, maybe Plato will swap over once they get a teleport out just to get that movement advantage, but it'll be an interesting one to see.
I actually think Boise State might stick with the Symmetra here. Yeah, they're going to. They're playing on the objective here. A lot more cleave, a lot more close quarters brawl. So Enigma going to have a tough time staying alive here in the close quarters. We'll see how well the main tank does in this matchup.
Yeah, Enigma realized on that side it's not the right place to be. They want to stick with the rest of their squad. They want to be in an open area for heals from Kawani, and that will be key. Now we have that rotation coming in from Boise State. They go around just a little bit to scare UC Berkeley off of it, and they're trying, but Enigma's going down. Enigma loses out. Matt Merck finds one. They destroy the barrier. There's no one left to be a front line on the objective now. The removal of the pilot as well as basically everyone else at UC Berkeley. Boise State take the first push.
Case of playing chicken to see which team bites first, but unfortunately Boise State, by advantage of having the objective control earlier, has the benefit, and we saw Matt Merck just waiting until Enigma bit off a little bit more than they could chew, and ran it down on the Winston. So good read there. Banana Bread making a shift over to the unpocketed Pharah, which means that Kel will actually have a really, I wouldn't say easy, but a reasonable chance at contesting the aerial threat.
Oh yeah, I think it'll only take one engagement for that to work out. Here comes the photon barrier, the A-man all alone on the objective. All the while, the rest of their squad is being eliminated. They have no ability to bring those hacks into the fight, and it just becomes so easy for Boise State to capitalize on that.
Matt Merck coming in from downtown, takes the pin there onto Enigma, not letting the reset come through. Big problem here, obviously, for Banana Bread is the pocket cannot be coming through because the bow support ultimates will be online for UC Berkeley. And they need to get, this needs to be an explosive fight from UC Berkeley, because if they lose this one, I mean, they're facing down Final Fight, and Boise State has everything. There's no way you stop the Pharah with the Fire Strike.
Oh my god, and now it's followed up with a great pin, and they have the immortality field so deep, and a teleport to get away? Oh, what? This is insane, but maybe it can be stopped here from the self-destruction. No, that doesn't find the value. Maxwell is jumped upon by Enigma. They have that sound barrier to keep them healthy as they make their execute, and it seems to be working well. However, Maxwell jumps in. They're in the back line. If they remove Sombra here, that could be a great time to use the Death Blossom, but I think they're all but done.
That is Bagel making the call not to use the sound barrier there, as they expect the A-Man to have the EMP online. I think they want to play the counter game out rather than trying to force a fight that they're not convinced they're going to win. So reasonable read there. Here's the thing, though. I don't know if the sound barrier is be able to respond to both the EMP and the barrage. Obviously, no damage mitigation if the Diva gets hacked. So eyes on that. This combo could be lethal as UC Berkeley gets approached by Boise State.
Oh, here comes that rocket barrage. It was stopped for only a moment, but it wasn't able to finish through the Death Blossom. It doesn't find the value. They jump in at the worst moment, and now Maxwell gets knocked off the edge. This is a complete easy wipe here for Berkeley.
That was actually a vanilla hack, by the way, from the A-Man. So really good read not to waste their resources. Cal, man. Banana Bread has not been enjoying their time on Pharah here too much. Maxwell going to switch over to the Cassidy as well. So a lot more range damage coming in, and the Pharah does not have a pocket either. Still no position in the sky, so very much a case of Boise State now having the advantage. Actually, Spidey going to switch over at the very end. Keep an eye out on this EMP.
Here's another photon barrier, so if they can break this bubble, that will be critical. Yes, on the perfect opposite side of that self-destruct, but the photon goes right at the worst moment. The sound barrier from Bagel will keep them alive, but now the Coalescence will just rip apart everybody in the objective. Here's the Earth Shatter from Matt Merck, but what does it really bring? Because there's so much heals coming from Berkeley that they aren't able to find kills. Only Enigma goes down, but actually Spidey will fall to their death as well. And this is starting to turn the tide by the way of Boise.
Actually, this is going to be the round to Boise State, as no one will be able to touch. There's just one on the point to contest, but it is not going to be very much longer, and this is going to be it. Overtime will tick away, so objective secured. One thing to highlight, of course, for that play is that EMP destroys all barriers, including the photon. So that is what UC Berkeley tried to do, tried to strip the photon barrier. The sound barrier from Bagel was well timed and actually kept Matt Merck alive through the self-destruct. So remarkable stuff there from Boise State, responding to an EMP that should rightfully have gotten a lot more eliminations than it actually did.
A great response, instincts as well from Bagel to be able to save their squad and extend those fights and allow Boise State, even though it seemed to be going the way of UC Berkeley, to turn the tide and win out that first round. But now we are looking at some bruiser. We got Peter on the hog.
See how well they can do with Brawl. This is definitely going to be easier said than done. You're going to need a hero pick for sure from this hog. Peter has their work cut out for them.
And a lot of ground given away. What they're playing outside right now. This is an interesting beginning. And I think Kalani's all alone right now. As well as the A-man just gets knocked off. I don't think this positioning was correct.
I think the strange thing here is it's so difficult to make the Roadhog work on an open map. I'm struggling to find the win condition, struggling to find the theory behind putting it on this map where you know Brawl is going to work out, especially in a map where head-to-head matchup really favors the Reinhardt-based teams, or especially for Boise State. So UC Berkeley, I mean, they're in complete disarray here, but they have no way to enter into the main engagement, and it's going from bad to worse.
Yeah, they just sent the A-man on the objective all alone while the rest of the squad is trying to make their way through the lobby. All the while, Banana Bread is racking up some damage, so they do have a rocket barrage at the ready, but nothing else. They have to make something work out, and Play-Doh with the easy shots off the Cassidy denied that attempt even further.
And they bait the hook and keep their Cassidy alive, so Play-Doh's not going to go down. Speaking of going down, that Peter just gets knocked off the map. I mean, 50% and counting. Surely Cal comes out with a change up somewhere. They have no way to break this main chokehold, so Boise State is by de facto setup just in advantage with their composition.
Maybe if the A-man can get behind the front line of Boise State to remove the barrier off of Matt Murph, but even so, having one of your DPS on the outside doesn't make for a very easy take. Great hook there out from Peter. They will be hit with that nano. Might be able to find a kill onto Maxell, and they do. This has got to be the time that they move up. That's 3 dead here for Boise. Make it 4. This has to be their moment.
They do flip the point over meanwhile, but that really felt like an awkward engagement that Boise State just took 1v1v1 and UC Berkeley brawled it out. They're not done yet either, by the way. Self-destruct doesn't get any eliminations, but puts a lot of damage downrange.
Does the hit, however, they're looking for the backline player, at least to stop the front from the white room. Here's the amplification matrix. This is going to be deadly if Banana Bread shows their face. Matt Burke takes out the counterpart, and that's another 3 dead. No more heals coming in for this fight. It should go back to Boise.
And I mean, is Bagel going to be taken out? Yeah, okay, good. Banana Bread is not going to miss those, so that's the Lucio eliminated. But unfortunately, that's a very fast-moving character, so it's not going to mean a whole lot in the later stages of this, as Maxell's back on the flank, looking for a pick-off, perhaps. Identifies the Ana, and forced to recall, so still forced out the nade and the sleep dart, both of which will not be available here.
Okay, here's the Deadeye out from Play-Doh, but they will get hit with a hack from the A-man, so that might cause a bit of an issue, removing that win condition to finally finish the fight, and they're being sent back. A big ante to stop the heals, but it does force out the immortality field from Chosen, so they can survive this fight. Earthshatter knocks down 2, especially a nanoed hog. Peter does get sent into the wall, but they're surviving. EMP out of the A-man, followed up with Banana Bread's rocket barrage. This should be a way to finish the fight, and it will indeed, especially with that minefield from Enigma.
That's a really great flick from Peter, actually, who's come alive in that later stages of the fight. Big melee elimination on to the Tracer and survives the survives the pulse bomb, and then continues to just keep the fight alive. I will say Boise State making Peter look a little bit better, as they're taking isolated 1v1s versus a bruiser character like this. The hook will whiff. And Boise State have somehow eked themselves to this last fight of this stage. UC Berkeley, though, with absolutely nothing available to them as we commence this last fight.
Great flashbang and roll into with the fan the hammer. That's Peter gone, and already in the back line, you got Maxell looking for the final kill here onto Kawani, and that should be it. There's the point conversion. They just got to run it down into overtime, or at least finish off this overtime, which they will.
little bit of shenanigans there on round number 2. A little chaos, a little excitement, if you will. But ultimately, it is going to be a Boise State closing it down at the very end. Pagel will get the highlight. And we start off with a 1-0 scoreline for Boise State.
Yeah, the second round certainly had me a bit. What? The commitment for that boop was great by Bagel. I like that one a lot. But this second round over on Control Center really threw me for a loop there. UC Berkeley did not seem to be playing in cohesion for the majority of that second round. They did make a nice run after getting a conversion onto that objective and holding it up until I believe like 75%. But just to get there, it required expending every single ult you had in the book, and there never really was a solid strategy really coming from them. It was a very odd round.
I mean, in fairness, the composition they were running is a very chaotic composition. Obviously, we talk about Roadhog being a bruiser. It plays a lot of flank setups. Make sure to kind of play aggression on their own merit. And then obviously the Pharah as well, a little bit of poke damage there. So yeah, a chaotic composition that plays to its own style. It just never really had any point presence that they could manifest into real percentage captured. Yeah, they had 75%, sure. But I mean, in all essence, that was Boise State kind of giving up space a little easily. So we'll see how well they come through on map number 2 as we move forward in the series. Because again, this is a 1st to 3 in our play-in match, UC Berkeley versus Boise State University. And I mean, so far certainly an interesting matchup, all told.
Yeah, there is the potential for them to really bring it back. I was liking what I was seeing with the A-Man getting some flanks on the Sombra, being able to get some specific hacks, easy ones indeed, to just make things a bit more difficult for their sustain game. However, I also did notice at the same time they were taking a little bit too long to enact on those hacks. They were in the sideline or the back line for a while, and when you're getting that flank, it is important that you have to act quickly when the fight begins, because they were left out of the fight, left out of dealing damage for too long, so much so that UC Berkeley was losing the fight just because of that.
Indeed. Speaking of, we're going to move on to Numbani, actually. A lot of high ground here, and I say speaking of because this is going to be an interesting look. Are we going to see, I expect to see at least on the attacking side, perhaps that dive composition come into play. I think the response is going to be more critical. Is the defense going to play the double shield? Are they going to play like the Sigma Orisa, or are they going to respond in kind with like a Winston, for example, or Wrecking Ball even? And I think that's going to be very, very curious here. Looking forward to that for sure, because I mean, the engage timings for Boise State have been remarkable all through. Really going in off a setup timer that they're adhering to, and have been very cool and collected in some of these engagements.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we talk about keeping a cool head is when they were hit with a major anti-grenade back on Control Center, because they were having almost every single ultimate in the book on the side of UC Berkeley thrown at them. They were still able to time their cooldowns. I want to point specifically to Chosen dropping a immortality field to save them even in the heat of all that battle. They were able to give some space, let it go by, and then come back for a second fight to win it out. So I think that their ability to stay cool, even if they're dived upon or doved upon, it will be there. They have that ability to just regain.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is I did not particularly see any carry moments from Boise State, and I don't mean that in a critical sense. I mean that they played rather cohesive team game. There was a couple moments where I think Maxell stepped up in a big way. A couple times where Plato hit some nice flicks, but overall it was just like a good team game from Boise State on map number 1. So can they continue it moving forward? We are seeing Boise State actually going with the Winston Diva, whereas UC Berkeley are hovering over a double bubble setup. So a little bit, UC Berkeley trying to play for, the nano boost, the high energy Zarya. They'll have a couple of soft engages to build those resources up, then play for a full engage. Boise State are go from the start, as Matt Mark sits up in a tree, and then we'll retreat after they scout a little bit of damage. And yeah, this is definitely going to be a lot more for UC Berkeley to kind of play a more passive game as they set up a crossfire between Banana Bread and the rest of the squad.
I think it's also going to be interesting to see how Maxell is able to sustain, but oh my god, wow. What a duel taken right into the face of Banana Bread. I was worrying about them losing some health, but they're just draining it all away from the opponents. Enigma jumping up, pops the bubble, and wants to try and regain some ground, but they cannot move a step forward.
It's really good. I mean, the fight just ends with the sticky bombs, right? Like, that's just a really good play by Maxwell to unassisted take out a player who is pocketed, by the way. This has kind of just been delaying UC Berkeley. They're trying to get in, but Boise State bullying up the high ground, preventing this tanks from setting up.
Yeah, every time that we have Enigma jump on up, they're hard denied. It's the whip shot, the stun. The second they make their way up, it's all over. And speaking of making their way up, the A-man caught in the flank, unable to provide a long-term hack, but there's another anti onto Kawani, just ensuring they can't move up whatsoever.
Oh, this is a lot of check marks, or a lot of critical health conditions for Boise State, but more importantly, it's critical but not eliminated. And Boise State have been remarkably good at just kind of stabilizing these fights in the midway mark. And UC Berkeley, yeah, they have nano boost, but so too does Boise State, and they have the advantage of going from the high ground to low. There's the bubble, there's the nano. Enigma trying rather to get to this primal rage.
He does, however, they're jumping into the back line. They remove the nano away from Chosen, at least for a moment, while they were hacked. However, it's put into play. But who's really bringing the pain? It's going to be Plato now as they activate the tactical visor, but that lasts for barely any time at all. Peter bringing in the Graviton Surge might be able to save the day. And they're continuing to cap this objective. That's 2 ticks down, but Matt Burke's back into play. They stop the hack. At least for now, if they can continue this presence, it may be able to save or stall enough time for the rest of Boise State to make it back.
No, that's just going to take a little bit of time off the clock. They're going to give up the point eventually. You can see Maxwell trying to think about whether they want to recontest, realize that there was no way they were going to survive. They weren't close enough to the duplicate, so they will back out here. Boise State, I mean, it's a bit of a stalemate in terms of time bank, so UC Berkeley, good recovery at the very end, and Boise State, now they have to set up. The big problem here, of course, is UC Berkeley has a snowball potential with this EMP, and critically, they need to go with it, I think, right now.
Enigma jumping back and forth, unsure, or at least blocking with their body the ability for the rest of the squad to move this payload up. It all starts now with the Sonic Arrow. They get the information of how many players are in there. Here comes the Dragon Strike, and it comes out huge. Bagel removed from play, and Plato so worse for wear. This might be their time to really round this corner.
Oh, I mean, you cannot let Peter go down, though. You absolutely cannot let the Zarya's energy escape. Maxwell gets focused down, doesn't even get the duplicated Primal Rage. That's really good play here by UC Berkeley. They deny another ultimate, and they keep Peter alive.
This is looking out great, and that's another dead. Both DPS gone, and this dive by Enigma, I think it dodged the sleep dart, so they can keep on going. Nope, there it is. Because it will fall regardless, and it does provide a great opportunity as UC Berkeley is coming on strong through Bani.
Is that a solo EMP onto the A-Man? Or sorry, from the A-Man onto Matt Merck? Certainly felt like it. As Bagel's now caught out in a corner. They're still dueling out, actually, as Maxwell's still alive. I had not noticed it in the back line, but this Brig doing a ton of work. They're going to have a recontest available.
Maybe so. It's Plato with the tactical visor. A great deal of damage done, but no eliminations brought forth. 75 HP. They got to run back. They can't continue in this fight, especially without the heals at the ready. Matt Merck may be able to save something, but they are being attacked from all angles, barely making it out with the Primal Rage. This is just an extended losing fight for Boise.
Still, for a fact that they lost the fight, they do get some time off the clock. It's only 3.5 minutes left. Are Boise State going to make an adaptation here? Are they going to change compositions for this third phase? UC Berkeley, they have the tools to kind of close it out. I mean, Peter, very high energy, has been kept alive through hell and high water. Very, very difficult, but they've managed to do it. And they're going to have the EMP as well. I mean, it needs to be a big one here for against Boise State, because UC Berkeley don't want to allow Boise State to get back into the thick of things.
Oh, a great clip over here onto the Banana Bread would be great. The Pulse Bomb goes wide. It doesn't find what they're looking for, but it does bring a great distraction. However, it does cost Maxwell their life, so it is a continued moving payload coming in for Berkeley. They cannot be stopped.
There's another re-entry there as Matt Merck returns to the high ground. They want to get those eliminations through, but critically, it's been Banana Bread staying alive. Alonso's been doing a ton of work here.
Peter's still there with the high energy, ripping apart Kel. That team is so close to losing their mech, and it's the Graviton that allows both of these supports get caught in the field. They can't do anything. It's basically all over. I mean, if these fights continue to go the way of UC Berkeley, and there it is.
Yeah, really, really good job from UC Berkeley to prevent Boise State from ever resetting. So back on the front foot there are UC Berkeley. I was wondering where it would be after that first map, but they've responded exactly as they needed to and made things very, very interesting as we move forward.
That seemed like one continuous fight throughout the entire round. As you said, they didn't allow a reset there for Boise State. And it's true, there never was a full 6v6 fight. It was always somebody trying to take a fight, maybe in the backline, or they're going in by themselves, taking 1v1s that eventually turn into an outnumbered matchup, allowing another player from Boise to die, someone else jumping in to maybe pick up the pieces, and it just continued to the end.
I think that the interesting thing, too, is that UC Berkeley didn't get full value out of all their resources either, right? It was just, especially in that final phase, it was a good sleep by Koani that kept Matt Merck out of the fight when they were nano boosted. So that was a really important part of things. And UC Berkeley, I think, as a team have kind of come through in this second map. And I think ultimately 223, that's a really good time bank, especially for Numbani.
Plenty of time to work with here, but maybe Boise State do it even better. We've got the A-man out here on the Sombra. We're going to do a little bit of hacking the second that first engagement begins.
A little bit of scouting. I mean, this is going to be interesting. Boise State playing May Reinhardt on Numbani. They're going to get to the high ground, move to the road, try and isolate the main tank. Not going to happen. Enigma will back up. The hack actually goes into May, so not the most ideal target. And Boise State going to continue to rotate through the high ground, just try and flip the map.
And they made it all the way to the back, still have everyone in one piece, so this should be interesting now that we have Enigma attempting to jump on and baits out the charge, and they don't get it, but Maxell does lose their life. Spidey on death's door, but no one's there to finish it off, and now we've seen Boise State in a bit of a bad position. All alone, Enigma does force them off the high ground, and they're just backing up again.
Maxell going to switch over to Tracer now, just a little bit more flank action, a little bit more mobility, obviously to get back in and to keep the fight going. The casting would make no chance of approaching the objective. As UC Berkeley prevents Boise State from getting any advancement on the objective, though they take a little bit of space that's given to them.
This is just a long, fleshed-out fight. Maybe the Amp Matrix can give them an attempt to walk on through, but no one is presenting themselves. No one is around to even face the wrath of an amplified shot. Maybe someone will take a hit, but no. With Enigma jumping through, actually they're hit with a pin. Frozen now in the primal rage state. This could be a time for them to recover, as that's 2 dead here for Berkeley.
How's the Blizzard committed? Boise State want this fight to be the one they take. A lot of damage through. That's a big counter pan, but the wall's up, so that means that that's going to be Spidey out. Boise State not letting this one go, trying to keep this fight in contest.
They do have a few players on site. Oh, looking for another charge. It doesn't come through, but the A-man falls regardless. No more hacks at the ready. Peter blocked off, and they've got 100 charge on their beam. But this is all over. There's no way they can recontest. Peter just has to run away.
Yeah, Peter wants to keep the energy up as well, right? The Zarya is a real bruiser in these fights. You need to keep them in play. So Peter trying to escape will do so. Set up for the second phase. It's a mess of a first point, but Boise State get there eventually. Speaking of a mess, this is going to be the EMP. This is going to be the Graviton Surge, both available. And a combo that can really shut down Boise State's progress in the making right here.
Be critical to get that in play, and everyone on the side of Boise State is so close together. I think it might be best if they fully go around, because they walk right into it, revealing themselves. That could be a critical error. So all those players are sitting right outside. They might be detected if they're just too close.
You can see just waiting for everyone to kind of group up. That's what the A-man is trying to find, just for that EMP. Really wants Chosen, obviously. No immortality field.
Oh, but they've been spotted. The A-Man has to translocate away, and they will come back for another fight. Here comes the self-destruction, though. It doesn't find anything, but it keeps them backed off. It is a commitment of the Graviton. The A-Man just getting multiple hacks in. They have to destroy that immortality field. It will be good, and they don't even need to commit the EMP to win the fight.
I mean, boys feel a little bit nervous. They try to engage with the self-destruct rather, but with no threat of the Matrix, Peter doesn't even need to worry about a hack coming in. Can just grab whoever's standing, and they clean up the last couple of eliminations. Obviously, the anti-nade is a big combo to that, but I mean, UC Berkeley now have an opportunity to just keep this in their favor. You know, they're going to have the EMP, they have the Nano, they're going to have the Primal Rage as well. I mean, Boise State, sure, you have Blizzard, but there's not many people you're looking to freeze as a combo. Perhaps just the Winston attack.
Okay, there's the Amp Matrix, but they have to back off within a second. Chosen and Maskell exploded the second they try to show their face, but they do have some responses. Peter, in the thick of it, will keep those bubbles alive, and they can walk out even better condition than they started with, especially with more energy.
That's Boise State, who use ultimates, and they're the ones who lose the fight. So UC Berkeley really happy with how that one goes. Boise State trying to re-engage very quickly, just trying to identify an out-of-place or out-of-position player, but UC Berkeley quickly hit the retreat, and I mean, now it's as explosive as this next engagement is going to be. Boise State definitely at disadvantage.
Banana Bread finding so much damage right now in long range, and they're in an off angle. No one is challenging him at the moment, and here comes that Graviton. There's an EMP to make it even better. There's nothing that Boise State can do in response.
I mean, I will say this too about that EMP is that the sound barrier was used to try and deny the damage on the Graviton. EMP strips all barriers, and sound barrier is in fact a barrier, so completely negated there was Bagel's utility. And again, UC Berkeley, just an efficient use of resources, deny Boise State any more progress. And only a minute 20 remaining. Boise State have to work very, very hard for this final phase, or this final piece of the second phase of Numbani.
There's another hack. Good night, Deadeye. Maxell will lose out on that Deadeye. The Cassidy has a little less value than started. And Banana Bread, again in a position to find uninhibited shots with that tactical visor, but it doesn't even matter because this time Boise came to play. They win the fight. Banana Bread has to retreat. They're the last one alive.
Matt Merck actually a big part of that. They see everyone on the ground and said, all right, time for the shatter. The bubble had already been used, pardon me. And UC Berkeley were not paying attention to the Reinhardt. As even with the Nano Boost and a Primal Rage, Nickman was taken out very, very swiftly. Now UC Berkeley are, you know, at advantage time-wise, certainly, but this final fight, it's a little bit tougher as they only really have the rally to work with to try and prevent this brawl composition from taking space.
Hey, they have a potential, but here comes another hack again. The A-Man is just doing a great job, a great improvement from what we previously saw in terms of their role as a Sombra. Enigma there to just stall time. They have some support, but that wall will keep them away for a little bit. Plato does lose their life in exchange, though. Now they're stuck in this side room. This is a way deadlier spot here for Matt Merck. They probably, you know what, definitely won't walk out of this one alive.
I think the one thing that's been a 180 from map number 1 is the fact that in the neutral game, UC Berkeley are the one getting the picks. It was Banana Bread, obviously, with a pickoff on to Maxell, who's switched over to the Reaper. Obviously, the hacks from the A-Man have been tremendous, the vanilla hacks, rather. And beyond that, UC Berkeley has had a response to Boise State. It's now less than a minute as this fight commences. And remember, Boise State needs to capture with time remaining. UC Berkeley still, again, a remarkably dominant position, even if they don't give up, or even if they give up that third phase.
Oh, the A-Man taking so much damage, but they have to translocate away. It is enough to keep them away, so you can even start a fight. Hell, taking so much damage, they almost get demacked instantly. However, this will be the beginning. Bagel does get the Discord out of Spidey. This is going to be a huge moment. The A-Man can jump down, get this EMP while the Graviton is still into effect, which didn't find exactly what they were looking for, but they're harassed. Here's the EMP. Everyone gets hit with it. They translocate away, and this is the time for UC Berkeley to make their move.
And that is actually going to be a lot of committed to this point. They need to win this fight out. They need to win it with time remaining. It's not going to happen. UC Berkeley on the flank. Tactical visor just to put a little bit more pressure. 9 seconds done. This map will not end in Boise State victory no matter what happens here. UC Berkeley still not out of it.
Oh, this is so close. They have to to get onto the point. They have to try and finish it off, but there's too much pressure coming in from UC Berkeley. It's the monkey, Enigma, causing so much chaos as the Primal Rage. No one can seem to kill them. Jumping away with 80 HP. They are still alive on this fight, and the hacks from the A-Man keep on coming, but they're still alive. Boise State has not given up yet.
There is going to be a recontest here for UC Berkeley, but it's not going to be enough. Maxall gets trapped by their own wall as UC Berkeley try to prevent this overtime from full capping.
Peter jumping in now. They've adjusted over with the pile driver. They might be able to get this in, but Plato starts it off with the Blizzard, translocating above. It's an EMP. It denies it. They can keep on fighting. The A-Man really has done the most here for UC Berkeley.
We will not get a return to form. We will not get a 3-0 in this series as we get a tied up play. Spidey will get a highlight, but it is 1-1. UC Berkeley pull one back, and really the better team all the way through here on Numbani.
There never was a strong response coming out of Boise State. The entirety of this map, it always felt as though UC Berkeley was in the driver's seat, specifically the A-Man, always having that threat. As you said earlier in the map, it seemed like Boise State was scared, and you could tell because the A-Man was coming. You gotta check under your bed, around every corner. Sombra, the A-Man is there ready to hack you and ready to stop you at any chance they can, and they did.
Yeah.
It was never a real great set piece from Boise.
And I think the impressive stuff too is the A-Man did not have at the start of the series that great of an EMP conversion rate. Even on Numbani, it took half the map to really get to a point where I thought the EMPs were actually good. But once they kind of tuned in, it wasn't just the neutral game that was a tremendous boon. It was the alt game as well. And I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, the neutral game won UC Berkeley this map. They in the fights where they were not using ultimates were the better team, and then the fights where ultimates were committed were often the better team anyway as well. So when you're hands above just the better squad, you're gonna have maps like that where you take a compelling and confident victory to equalize a series. And honestly, just a really good showing from UC Berkeley on Numbani.
Yeah, it's good to see that this won't be an easy series here for Boise State. I mean, they got to bring it back. This is an opportunity now for UC Berkeley to turn the tides. I mean, we're headed over to Havana next time around in the escort mode. So I want to know if Boise State, can they correct those errors? Because it's going to be a similar situation where moving the payload was where Boise State struggled the most. Once they entered in that stage of Numbani, it seemed like they could never get a fight to go in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, a part of that is obviously the if the compositional setup was not strong for UC Berkeley on map number 1, the same can be said, I think, for Boise State on map number 2, right? The Reinhardt really just could not get to the points. Like that composition could not approach the areas where UC Berkeley were taking fights. And a lot of the time, the struggle was tremendous, I think, for Boise State as a result. If you're not able to kind of cleave through, you're not generating ultimates, you're not able to shut out players, and you're gonna lose fights, you're gonna lose maps.
Yeah, and they weren't able to get to a fight, but also they weren't able to secure their backline either. It was Banana Bread, who we saw in the flank so many times on that Soldier 76. Meanwhile, Boise State couldn't get up to the fight. They couldn't secure their own behind. The off angles coming from UC Berkeley were just too much. It was overwhelming, and that's why we saw them make a dominant showing in terms of both their attack and their defense there on Numbani. So it's time for Boise to step it up, really, as we move on to Havana.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing too, obviously, is that Numbani started off with Boise State in a dominant position, right? They were taking really aggressive angles on the high ground when they were on defense. They were really denying UC Berkeley any space. But once UC Berkeley got that first pickoff, once they, got into the objective, it was all them from there on out. So Boise State a little bit shaken, in terms of what we can see coming into it. We'll see how well they respond and rebound as we head into map number 3. We are guaranteed a 4th map in this series, which is a rare sight indeed. I'm excited to see how Havana goes when we load into it in a moment.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that we might see a forward positioning played by, I believe it is going to be Boise State on the defense in the beginning, and maybe they want to do another hard line get very aggressive, hold them right at the front door, and we'll check it out. We'll see what they've got. Maybe they want to burn as much time as humanly possible, because that's what you got to focus on at this point. Once the payload started to roll there for UC Berkeley, that became an issue. Deny that from even starting as much as you can, obviously within reason, and that may be your best bet.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, this map obviously plays a little bit more favorably to the style too, right? You don't need to rotate to high ground nearly as frequently, and even when you do, it's a lot easier to get there. Starting off on even footing, though. High ground not found. We'll see how well UC Berkeley responds to spawn camp. They'll roll out a Bastion. And I don't think Cal has recognized that they're all there.
Oh, no. They get hit in the face with an accretion. And the A-Man is here with plenty of help. Double barriers to keep him alive. But on the other side is where Boise State is helping themselves. They lose out to Enigma. And the A-Man is taking a serious amount of damage. Once they've been put on the wall, they don't have the protection. And Kel takes it right to their face.
And I mean, Kel was kept in mech, too, by the way. 10 HP or so was what was left remaining. And Boise State punished UC Berkeley for allowing that to happen. Kel was the arbiter of the A-Man's demise at the very end. I mean, Chosen has the Ant Matrix already, by the way. That's how much damage the front line took. They're not done yet. No. They're gonna keep them. They're gonna keep them in spawn here.
Wow, another fire strike from Matt Burke, finding the value they need. The A-Man put on the wall again. The immortality field not going to be their saving grace.
Oh, I mean, speaking of saving graces, that might actually be a helpful one. Maxell's gonna be taken out. A wayward headshot by Banana Bread. Still, Ant Matrix has not been committed, so that is an opportunity. A fire strike, 200 damage. Matt Merck should be able to get up to this Earthshatter as well. And with a...
Oh, wow. There's the Blizzard. There's the immortality field popped over, and it allows Chosen to even send one further down the line. As they push over to the back. Oh my god, Matt Merck removing two. That's 3 dead from this fight. UC Berkeley can't get it started.
Yeah. I mean, we've been back and forth. The map pick has really favored the team that's picked, right? So, as well it should. That's, you know, not particularly surprising. However, the way that this has become dominant is impressive stuff. And we still have the Earthshatter here for Matt Merck. Break the shields down, and there's no response.
The fact that 2 minutes have been taken down before UC Berkeley can even get on the objective is crazy. But now it's time to turn the tide. Now they will have the ability to break on through. I mean, if they can continue to survive, Plato is doing just fine. If they can remove the Baptiste, Kawani has to use the immortality field. They will stall it out even longer. Gravitic Flux comes in. This should be the end.
I mean, it is going to be the end of the spawn hold, but that's disastrous for UC Berkeley. They had to use 2 ultimates just to get out of spawn. Boise State used just the Ant Matrix. Right? Like, this is still really good for Boise State. Maxwell going to go back over to the Cassidy. The A-Man on the Widowmaker now for more range damage, but Matt Merck running past the shields. Just lay down the wall on the tank line, see what they do.
Hell, so close to this self-destruction. Oh! What? The strong commitment of that Earthshatter. The solo over onto Banana Bread. You know what? They've been a bit of a nuisance, so might as well take them out. Now they moved into the cafe. Now they have to recontest on the objective. The payload with a self-destruct being dropped right next to it. It doesn't find any kills, but it's still, I guess, a threat.
And I mean, on top of that, Kawani was taken out by the pilot as the self-destruct was going through. So, I mean, Boise State still, there it is. Gets rid of gets rid of the Widow rather. And while a wayward headshot will take out Maxall, Boise State are back in control. And I mean, there's only 30 seconds left, and the Blizzard's still to be used.
And there's the Blizzard. Goodbye to Peter. If they're able to keep it in, though, it forces out the Transcendence and a Dragon Strike as well. It doesn't do too much. And here comes the Infra Sight. Not really a crazy ultimate, but it does give a little bit of help. The Amplification Matrix will rip them apart, though. UC Berkeley, the second they turn this corner, they're losing out on more and more time. Only 6 seconds left. They have to get onto this objective, but they can't even get past the front line set up by Boise State.
And even with the DMAC on the Kel, that is not enough. And that'll be a first point hold here for Boise State. Off the spawn camp. Just tremendous stuff here from Boise State to recover. After what was a rather futile Numbani, they come back swinging literally, to give themselves a chance to be back in the lead here in this series, a really high chance at that.
What a great hold, honestly, from Boise State. This is what they wanted to do. It's what they hoped to do back on New Money. Not the case, though. UC Berkeley will have to outdo themselves along with Boise State and bring out some of their best performance, their best defense so far, if they want to just maintain this beat or maintain their momentum in terms of winning the maps. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I mean, we could see that Boise State is ready for a similar cheese comp just to break out the front gate with Maxwell on the Bastion.
I suppose not really a cheese comp in the sense that its strategy is to set up a crossfire, right? And kind of play the fact that you can only shield in one direction. The difference, of course, is that Boise State just plays LOS perfectly on their defense, right? So we'll see how well they adapt here. UC Berkeley also don't have the May. They don't have nearly as much consistent damage as Boise State opened up with. So this is definitely going to be a lot harder to break LOS on the Bastion, as Maxwell will head over to it. And a teleport, too, to get out of spawn early.
Okay, that kinetic grasp allows the easy removal of Enigma. Banana Bread goes down too, and this is a ripping apart of UC Berkeley. Kawani, the only one to make it out alive, and I don't know if they actually did. I thought they just died very quickly, maybe.
Yeah, that's one way. I suppose that's one way to say if your opponent's playing LOS, like line of sight, just teleport to where they're not looking, and you can see them. So really well done. Now Boise State setting up a flank, setting up an off-angle fight. They've been scouted out, so Enigma knows where they are. Now, knowing where someone is and being able to deal with them are two different things entirely.
Yeah, with that pocket coming from Bagel, it's just too critical to have that extra damage. Banana Bread needs to stay out of the sight of Maxwell, but now with the hack going on to them, it won't have as nearly much damage as they were looking for, and things are turning back. Boise State losing, dropping like flies. They have lost their momentum.
That is going to be the reset here. I'd like to see, I wonder if they're going to stick with the switch, or stick with the Bastion or switch, and the answer is switch. It makes sense. You don't have any space to really work with, so we're going to the double sniper now. I like this change. I like this change at this point, too, because 241, we're going to get a couple of real fights here, and, oh, keep an eye. Hello.
Oh,
goodbye.
there we go.
Sometimes things are a little predictable when it comes to the 1v1. Non-moving Widow.
It is what it is, but now with the supercharger in play, that's the barrier gone. Enigma has to have some help with the immortality field, but that too falls. Now who is there to help him out? The Halt keeps Lucio in play, but Spidey is trying as hard as they can to get away. Somehow stayed alive, they make it out. Gravitic Flux puts to play. That is a huge one. 5 players stuck in it, and they're thrown down to the earth. Kel will be the one to die, but they have some help. It's the Valkyrie from Bagel. They are sustained, not to mention Chosen here to give them potentially the amplification matrix, but to hack out. The A-Man is giving a parting gift, but that's all they could do. Amp Matrix here to take the tanks in the off angle, take him out of the fight. Earth Shatter from Enigma, but it doesn't do anything.
That will be Boise State rolling it in to the final checkpoint there to reclaim their lead here in this series. One map away from moving on as they get a response back. Where they fell on Numbani, they have returned in style on Havana. They're now, as I said, one map away. To the spawn doors with you, says Matt Merck. To the victory column, indeed. Los. One more map is all that stands between Boise State and victory.
Yeah, a great way to turn this around. You would not expect this performance from what we saw in Numbani, but I mean, we didn't need to see that much in terms of offense coming out of Boise State because it really all depended on that forward hold that we saw. It was just unstoppable. 2 minutes ripped away from the clock just from sitting outside and camping the spawn. What a defense. UC Berkeley wasn't able to get nearly as much value in terms of that. It was a swift exit with a teleport.
Yeah, and I mean even on the defense, going back to Boise State for a sec, once they lost that spawn camp, they were right back in on the corner with their composition to just put Berkeley back down and you know all the way through this map, all the way through Havana in full dominant showing, and yeah, 2-1 lead now for Boise State.
So We'll see if Boise State can shut things out and make it a 3-1 finish, or if UC Berkeley is looking to play things out up until map 5. But we'll find out as we head into map 4 after this quick break. Hey, and welcome back to potentially the final map here in our second series of the night. Boise State versus UC Berkeley. After taking a very big hit over on Numbani, Boise State is back. They won over back on Havana, and now we are headed over Temple of Anubis, potentially the last map of the series. I'm Los, joined by LaFon, as always. So, what are we thinking about Anubis? Is this a draw? Will this end? What's going on?
I mean, I'd like to temper expectations by first stating that every team that's picked the map has won the map. So, teams have been strong on the map that they think they're strong on, which is simultaneously a good thing and also a little bit predictable. But, coming into Temple of Anubis, we haven't seen over the season a lot of assault, just in general. And when we have seen it, it hasn't been Temple of Anubis very frequently either. So, in terms of what we expect to be sort of the method of play, I would expect to see double shields, certainly from the defense at the very least. Obviously, Orisa, maybe Diva or Sigma, depending on what kind of style you want to do. Do you want a little bit more mobility for high ground, or do you want a more stable front line? Beyond that, though, we don't have a lot of expectations in terms of what teams elect to run. I will say Boise State has looked most comfortable on Reinhardt-based compositions. Is that going to be a difference maker here on their offensive run? We'll have to see, though they are, as you said, starting off the defense first.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll actually have no Reinhardt, no double shield here on Boise State, which is kind of crazy to me. I'd expect that from them. However, we do have Matt Merck on the Orisa, held there to potentially deal with any air superiority issues, but that's actually going to be perfect because there's Banana Bread on the pharmacy along with Spidey.
My prediction was at least somewhat correct. You see Kel is on the Diva, right? A little bit more contested high ground. I said good boop though. That's gonna knock Matt Merck off the high ground. The concussive blast denies that, and that's gonna give a little more space for this engagement. Bubble already spent as Enigma takes a ton of damage.
Yeah, might build up some good charge for Peter though. Banana Bread on the sideline, but Maxell flying through the sky, ready to challenge them. There they are. Maybe with some good shots. The beam has some nice tracking, but it's not enough to get the kill, especially with Spidey there in tow.
Keep an eye out, of course. The A-Man actually teleported or put the translocator down behind, so not out of it yet. And Banana Bread, despite being under a ton of duress, still gets the elimination on Plato.
There's a good hack from the A-Man, and Plato no longer with that upper angle. It's just going to start for everything to fall apart. A resurrection onto Banana Bread. Enigma jumping around. No one really is left to make this a serious fight for Boise State. They have to give it up.
Yeah, Boise State tried to do a little too much too quickly. Kel is playing back and forth, trying to contest the high ground, trying to contest the low ground, ends up doing neither. And on top of that, obviously, Banana Bread getting a couple of pickoffs with Pocket from Spidey. We're going to see Bagel switch over to the Mercy as well, give Maxell or Plato, either one, a little bit more punching power, a little bit more ability to just, get that insta-kill potential. And we'll see how well they do it. Matrix in play, but Barrage is also at the ready for Banana Bread.
It's all about getting this initial pick out of the sky. If they played too close, they lost their life. That's how it happened before. But Matt Merck starting things off, getting the A-Man out of the equation will be a big factor. Not having that hack as a possibility will be a much better position for them to win it out. And that will be Maxell getting the kill on their counterpart.
It's going to slow down a chance at an immediate snowball, but the risk of a double cap is still there. Look at the check marks that Berkeley has. I mean, everything is going to be in play. I will harken back to the idea, though, that 6 ults you lose. It's an old Overwatch saying. We'll see how well it comes true. You see Berkeley have all the tools they need to close this round out right here.
I think it's also important to remove Peter and stop them from being so influential. That strong Graviton comes through. It's a double ultimate there as well. I mean, they're just throwing everything they got. 6 ults potentially on the table. The A-Man is too late to the party to have that involved. But here's Bob. They got knocked off, but they do have Banana Bread in their sights. Matt Merck, though, saves the day. And now a tick is earned from UC Berkeley.
Not done yet. They want to win this fight. The A-Man is going to commit the EMP, and they're actually going to find a couple of kills. Banana Bread gets resurrected back in as well. First it gained. It's not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, the A-Man gets another hack. Bagel out of the fight. They're jumping back in, hoping to stall, but anyone who steps foot into this objective will be punished.
Winston.
There's the duplicate onto the Winston, trying to get the Primal Rage. Swiftly back to get 1. They get 2. It's not done yet.
A great play from Maxell, and now here's the Primal Rage to knock everyone off the point, even jumping into the back line. A big focus over onto Kawani, but they slept instead. Great enough effort to keep him off the objective.
So I suppose it is still the days of 6 ults you lose, as UC Berkeley walk away with 1/3 of the objective in response. After committing everything, mind you. Back to the Barrage, back to the Nano Boost. The Graviton is online again. I mean, this is the chance they have to win. Boise State doesn't have much.
Such long-range engagements that Kel can't exactly step up to, but now is the perfect time to abuse Peter, but it starts off with a solo Graviton. It gets the kill. Maxell does fall, but now there's a lot more resistance coming in from the site proper. The amplification matrix is going to play. Banana Bread hoping to save their life, and they do for now at least. Yellow's on the back line. They can't help their teammates. There's so many dead. About to be 3 dead for the defenders. Boise State have no response right now.
I mean, they don't have anything but the attempt to contest for the overtime. They get 1, though. A-Man is down. They're still contesting the objective too, so they're buying time. There's the resurrect. Any more eliminations will be lethal. Boise State, though, need to get to the objective now.
Oh, denied completely. The rocket barrage from Banana Bread seals the deal, and Boise State will lose it. You see, Berkeley do have an extra 2 minutes and 20 seconds to run with.
Still, though, I mean, UC Berkeley, considering they walked into the fight prior with 6 ultimates, the fact that Boise State still got away with taking another extra minute off the clock, they're okay, I think, with how that kind of turned out. Could it have been better? Sure. Did they make the best of what they had? They did as well with that. So, I mean, now Boise State just have to complete the map with time remaining. And we'll be able to see how well 220 scales to be in the time bank. But UC Berkeley, I mean, just continuing to put pressure on that backline.
Locating. Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Double shield this time around, or the defense. UC Berkeley going to play a little bit more stable. Banana Bread back on the Pharah, so not really worrying about a hit scan pressure. Boise State moving to the Somber Reaper. A lot more brawl potential available now for Boise State, as they'll like to leap in as a team and just kind of isolate one target, take them out. Banana Bread really going to be the focal point, I think, for UC Berkeley in terms of the damage throughput.
Defend objective A.
As that first engagement comes through, Kel gets stunned up, but they're able to make the high ground there in the Mega Health Pack room. Still, not a little bit of an isolation here. A reset for Boise State to get all their utility back, waiting for that engagement. Big play. The A-Man finds a little bit of damage, but reset comes in. And Boise State, once they force that recall, are trying to find an isolated target. They'll find Sigma. They'll find Peter. They'll focus them down. The elimination not there in time as the immortality field comes up. The trade, though, is there for the Pharah. And Banana Bread out of the conversation. Still, though, not out of the woods yet. UC Berkeley's so very weak. And the A-Man trying their best to stay alive is going to be peeled for by Peter. The A-Man taking down a ton of time, trying to get back in, but the eliminations aren't there. Peter hacked up, no more support, and it's going to be Chosen staying alive through it all as this first point. Yeah, still that first point going to be captured here, Los, and we got down to the second objective, 5.5 minutes.
New defense point. Objective B.
Got a quick EMP that gets denied. Plato quickly eliminating them. Raj still finds 2, though. And that's going to be 3. Just the trades back and forth here as Boise State, they get a couple eliminations, but it won't be enough. Defense is heavily favored in these extended skirmishes.
Okay, well, that was a good start from Kel, but now they're just as the pilot, but they might be able to get something going on against the Sigma. Maybe no, Peter has just way too much health. They're going to stall it out. They're going to allow, or at least try and stall out Kel as much as possible. Remech won't be allowed. Maxell in the back line, maybe looking for a hack.
I'm out of here.
Just a little bit of ult generation there. Perhaps if they'd gotten lucky getting, Kalani to either use Immortality Field or taken down. All of those don't happen, so instead they'll be content with about 5% ult charge. Now, I mean, Boise State are in the farm stage of this. They're trying to walk in with this Primal Rage, force out the cooldowns, and get, Plato up to this Death Blossom. Oh boy, speaking of getting Plato up to full health would be ideal at this moment, but here comes that engage. Matt Merck in the back line. Primal Rage at the ready.
Oh, they force out the Immortality Field, and that might be enough. It might be worth it. And now you have a bit of a position swap. Matt Merck being shot from either side, but here comes the Primal Rage, and they remove Spidey. No resurrections available. No boost. The Death Blossom as well allows them to at least get the first stick. They have to guard those spawns as well. If they can do it now, they can win it with way more time to spare.
That was a much cleaner engage, and Matt Merck with the brilliant primal mechanics there to get both supports out, keeping the tracking head on a swivel. The last couple of players just trying their best to keep things in contest. The hack will go out onto Chosen, but it won't be enough. The eliminations are all Boise State, as that will be a time bank advantage for Squad in Blue. UC Berkeley will head back to the offense here.
2 to 2.
Good way to start things off. Not bad. Full 1 minute and 3 seconds more time than UC Berkeley, but the original defense from Boise State left much to be desired, so there needs to be some improvement, and it really came down to Banana Bread being a difference maker in that initial round.
Yeah, I mean, now we go to extra innings, right? Time is halved for UC Berkeley. You start with 4 normally. They're down to 2. So they will not get nearly as many attempts at this first phase of Temple of Anubis. To be mentioned, though, it didn't take them that long the first time around. They got in their first attempt, in fact. And so Boise State, if they want to end the series here, are going to need to pull up a better defense this time around.
Attackers incoming.
Still, no changes in the lookup of what's in play, as we still see the Echo, we still see the Mercy, and obviously the Diva here for Boise State.
Crucial play will be it's Banana Bread. Honestly, I've said it before, but Banana Bread putting on the pressure from the skies and not having too much opposition. I know we have Plato there as well as Kel to potentially jump up and take the fight to the skies, but they haven't been able to find success, at least in this part of the map.
Really advanced position here for Boise State. They don't want to even allow Banana Bread to set up, right? That's what kind of broke them apart last time, so good change up now. Enigma does not even get to the high ground this time. Does not get any energy for Peter either. Which is going to be really critical. Oh my god, goodbye Enigma. It's no puzzle how they went down. That was a lot of damage from Maxal.
But now, in turn, Chosen is lost. That's the Immortality Field away, but a Resurrection comes through, and they're back into the fight. Sticky Bombs don't make the connection, but it's still a lot of pressure being brought to this map by Plato.
Nice aggressive setup, too, to deny Banana Bread. Oh, just misses. Even still, this is still UC Berkeley being wasted. A lot of time wasted. Only a minute left here.
And Enigma back in. They do have support coming from the A-Man. However, no one's there to fight them. They jump into a high ground that has nobody left. Plato does get Banana Bread. It's forcing out the Resurrection, so they're back in play. They aren't unable to stop it, but the second they get back into the fight, Plato gets them again. That's also Mercy removed from the fight. They do lose Matt Burke in turn. However, this is a good trade for them.
EMP at the ready for the A-Man, though, or nearly so. This needs to be the one they keep for the second phase. They need to get into this point without using the EMP if they want to double cap. And really, that would be the best case scenario.
Patient potential here for Plato. They need to find the right angle. If they can get it done and just be beefy enough while they already remove Banana Bread. There goes Kawani. They are losing so much to stay. They have nothing to work with. They force out the MP from the A-Man, but it doesn't even matter. 10 seconds left. 6 people or 5 people dead. There's nothing UC Berkeley can do.
And I mean, that is the EMP. That is the Graviton Surge. That was the fight that UC Berkeley needed to win. They will not even get to the overtime trigger, and that is going to be Boise State. 3 minutes, 3 seconds away from moving on and sending UC Berkeley home.
It's all going to depend on really one fight that Boise State needs to win. That's it. 3 minutes, 3 seconds. This can be the end unless Berkeley is able to do that full stop, which neither of these squads in the first round were able to pull off. But Boise State, they brought it back here. Unable to give any ground, yield nothing over to UC Berkeley.
Remarkable stuff. Just impressive presence under pressure by Boise State. Exactly as you said, UC Berkeley had nothing to work with. They just weren't able to get past that choke point. Obviously the spam from Maxal, obviously the pressure from Plato in the air, all of that and more. Now Boise State, their fight was just as dominant on the first engagement. The worst they can do is a draw, but they'd like to end it here. And I mean, 3 minutes, 3 seconds take 1/3 of the objective. Well, so that is not a high bar to clear.
No, certainly not. And now we have a very interesting composition. Banana Bread, Junkrat, Peter back on the hog. Not a role that we would have expected to be revived here. E-Man forward again. Maybe this could provide value, but the second, if they get caught out, it will be all but over for them.
Oh, big trap found. I don't know if they can eliminate the person who's caught in it, though.
That doesn't seem to be the case, and they have full control of the high ground. They're ready to jump down. A great hook from Peter. That's Plato gone, but Maxell has been spotted out by the A-Man, and this is a few players trapped up in the top room.
Oh, the hook from Peter misses, though. Then to keep their off-tank alive. You take a breather, we'll come in to stabilize for a moment. And, I mean, at this point, Boise State are kind of isolated up here. They've got 4 players. Plato forced to use all their cooldowns just to get to the high ground. And in with the team now, so it's a reset now for Boise State. Matt Merck out early yet again.
Plato gets into the backline on the high ground, but they get knocked off pretty quickly. Banana Bread has the Riptire at the ready if they want to use it, but there goes Enigma. Here comes the Riptire from Banana Bread. They're going to stall it out a bit. Maybe it gets a kill onto Plato when it does, but already there's 3 dead for Berkeley. They have to come in for a vengeance. Maybe a good hook from Peter can seal the deal, but they miss it out. They hit the vape. Well, what else can they hit? We just have a body blocking Mad Merc. They get hit with the whole hog, but there's nothing left for them to work with. It's just Enigma on the objective. They're going in for the stall. Maxell with the EMP, and this is going to be Boise State taking it 3-1.
They'll drop one map here, Los, but that will not stop them. They will move on. Boise State do in our play-ins, trying to get to those playoffs. Remarkable stuff here. As recovery, a small slip on Numbani was all it took for them to dial back in and finish off in style as they close out Temple of Anubis in a 3-1 fashion.
Yeah, it was definitely a great finish with a solid hold coming in from this team. They were able to do what they couldn't before. Get a full hold on the objective. It's definitely an improvement from what we've seen back on Numbani. Even further to build upon how well they were getting a full hold back on Havana. So this is Boise State able to correct their mistakes and come through with a victory.
Yeah. And I mean, a little bit of an up and down series, right? Control was not close. Obviously, Havana wasn't close. The other two, I mean, Numbani, you could argue was pretty close, but really it wasn't. And then Temple of Anubis, which went down to the wire. Remarkable stuff all the way through. That's going to be it for the season for UC Berkeley. They put up a hell of a fight, both in their division, which was a very competitive one, I might add, and here in the play-ins too. Nothing to hang their head in shame in at all. But in the end, it is going to be Boise State University moving on from this matchup here, Los, and well played to them, certainly, as they look to continue their forward momentum.
Yeah, this was a very tough conference. The West had such great squads, and for them to make it all the way to the end and even continue further into the playoffs, it's going to be an exciting one. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what else Boise State can bring to the table. Of course, later in those conference finals, they will have to face off against another undefeated team. That's going to be UC Irvine, another very tough squad to beat, similar to what we were talking about of Harrisburg back in the Northeast. So 2 undefeated teams, 2 newcomers, not really newcomers, but 2 people trying to step up to their respective leaders. So this is just the beginning. This is really just the beginning of Boise State and their adventure, their battle through the postseason.
It is going to be a real, a real barn burner, if you will, going down in that conference finals, the play-in finals here coming up. I'm excited to see how that turns out. Obviously, Boise State, they're going to take a little bit of time to take a break from this match, get a chance to review, get a chance to figure out what they can improve on in those next ones. But certainly a well-fought matchup here today, between UC Berkeley and Boise State.
Yeah, I have to say, there were some very big doubts in terms of, is Boise State able to make their way through this matchup when we were looking at Numbani, where they they were losing fights left and right, and they just didn't have the confidence to make a strong push. And I think a big part of that was improved upon over in Temple of Anubis. There was that one player, Peter, who was such a big gatekeeper of fights. When they had that full charge with Zarya, when they had the very strong beam, it was a very threatening poke coming against the front line of Boise State. But finally, they were able to break on through. They improved upon that in Havana. They were able to take the fights. They could close the gaps, and they really came out on top.
Yeah, all the way through. I think obviously the most impressive thing in this series, aside from the full holds and kind of the performance under pressure, is the fact that after dropping Numbani, after dominating Lijiang Tower and then moving on to Numbani, kind of struggling there, the fact that we're able to turn right back around on to map number 3 onto Havana and come out with that kind of performance, I think is impressive stuff. So the whole series was impressive certainly, but for Boise State, that adaptation, that reset, is something to kind of laud, I think, and realistically shows the mental strength of this team and the fact that I think they believe in themselves to kind of go far in the playoffs.
Well, believing in yourself is kind of like one of the most important things. Having that self-confidence in yourself, in the mental. The mental game is so strong, and I think it also stands to reason that there is a lot of confidence given from the Boise State program. Like, this is a very, it's a program I respect. It's very much invested to by the university. They have such a great facilities, a very large staff. So I think when you have that backing, you have the confidence to go in there and you have some great support, win or lose, and that definitely helps. That back end definitely helps.
It does indeed. With that, though, we do have an interview at the ready from your victors here, Boise State. Matt Merck, congratulations on your victory here tonight. As
Thank you.
First of all, just first thoughts. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. We're looking good going into NACE. We've been practicing a lot and we're getting better. So
yeah, I mean, you definitely improved within this series itself. You had a very dominant performance over on Lijiang Tower, but walk me through what happened with you guys on Numbani. How were you able to kind of just bounce back from
so Numbani, we decided today we're having an off day on the double bubble comp, and they were just outplaying us completely, out ulting us. And so that's why you saw us switch off double bubble, because we wanted to try something else. But the second we got to choose our own map, we're really confident on Havana, and we decided to close hold, and we knew they played poorly against like the rush on Lijiang, at least, or like they didn't seem how to counter it, to know how to counter it, and so we just tried it again on Havana.
So learning from your opponents within the series itself makes total sense. Obviously, it's not the end of the line here for Boise State. You guys have more games coming up. Is there anything you guys are going to be preparing for specifically coming up against UC Irvine?
Yeah, we've lost to them a couple times now. We keep seeing them, but every time I feel like we're learning and we're building upon like those losses. And thanks to like coaching from Ellie Vogt, I think this next match could be the time we finally beat them.
Hey, that's impressive stuff. I mean, they've been undefeated all season, so this might be Boise State's time. But looking even further, you've made it to the playoffs. You're able to look forward and get into the matches with other teams from different conferences. What are some teams, or who are some teams that you're looking forward to getting into the server with?
I think it'll be fun to play against like the Maryville and Redbirds again, just because they are like kind of leagues ahead, and just to be able to learn from them. And then also like teams like SCAD, who I think we're neck and neck with, and like Bay State, seeing who can come on top after a whole season of practice together. Those are the ones I'm really excited for.
So match up against the best of the best to see where you stand with them. Makes total sense. Matt Merck, before we let you go, any final shout outs?
Shout out to the team for just not having bad mentals. After losing that map, we just went on to the next one. So yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
thank you so much, Matt Merck, and congratulations on the match. And we'll be looking forward to see you in Boise State throughout the rest of the postseason.
Yeah, thank you. I look forward to playing in the tournament some more. It's really fun.
Well, there you have it. Congratulations to Mac Merck. Congratulations to Boise State. And of course, our game earlier today at New York University with their victory as well. Los, that's going to be it for the games tonight. That being said, we have more action all through the week. You won't want to miss it here at the NACE Starleague. Obviously, Rocket League and Overwatch on Monday, League of Legends on Tuesday, Call of Duty on Wednesday. That being said, this week it's actually Overwatch on Wednesday stepping up and CSGO on Friday. So tune back in. You won't want to miss it here at the NACE Starleague.
That's right. You get a double dose of LaFon and Los in 1 week. What a little treat for everyone involved here at the NACE Starleague. But like you said, LaFon, that has been it. NYU versus Drexel 3-0. A little bit more of a competitive series as we got to Boise State winning it out 3-1. But thank you to everyone who joined up, the squads, the production, everybody involved, the fans at home. Thank you so much for joining us here on the NACE Starleague, and, well, we'll see you on Wednesday.